The night was pitch black, the kind of darkness that swallows sound and hope alike, when the radio crackled with a voice no one wanted to hear. "Rangers to base. We're surrounded. 50+ enemies closing fast. No way out." The words hit like a gut punch, and in the silence that followed, one woman, Sergeant Kira Vance, picked up her rifle, chambered a round, and whispered, "Not on my watch." If you love stories of unbreakable courage and impossible shots, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a heartbeat like this. Out in the jagged mountains of eastern Afghanistan, November 2017, a 12-man ranger team had been hunting a high-valued Taliban commander for 3 days. They'd tracked him to a cluster of mud brick compounds nestled in a narrow valley, but the intel was bad. What was supposed to be a quiet snatch and grab turned into a hornet's nest. The team took cover behind crumbling stone walls as muzzle flashes lit up the ridgelines like deadly fireflies. Bullets chipped the rock around them, and the air filled with the metallic smell of blood and cordite. Their squad leader, Captain Marcus Reed, keyed the mic again. "We need air support now, we're pinned." But the closest Apache was 40 minutes out, and the enemy was already moving to flank. 2 miles away, on a windswept ridge the Rangers had nicknamed Widow's Perch, Kira Vance lay prone in the frost, her cheek welded to the stock of a custom M2010 sniper rifle. She was 29, 5'6" in boots, and the only woman on the Overwatch team. The army had tried to keep her in the rear, but she'd shot expert every qualification, outscored every man in her platoon, and refused to be anything less than the tip of the spear. Tonight, her spotter, Specialist Ramirez, glassed the valley through a thermal scope. "Kira, I count 47 heat signatures, maybe 50. They're spreading out. If they get behind the wall, the Rangers are done." Kira's breath fogged in the sub-zero air. She adjusted the windage turret on her scope. 8 clicks right for the crosswind, 2 up for the 2,100-yard distance. The math was brutal. A 300 Winchester Magnum round would drop nearly 30 feet over that range, and the wind could push it another 6. One mistake, and the bullet would sail harmlessly into the mountains. She exhaled slow, steady, the way her grandfather had taught her on Wyoming deer hunts. "Distance confirmed?" she asked. Ramirez's voice was tight. 2,112 yards to the nearest tango. They're using the irrigation ditch for cover." Kira's heartbeat slowed to a crawl. She could see the Rangers now, tiny figures hunkered behind the wall, returning fire in controlled bursts. One of them was already down, motionless. The enemy commander, a thick-bearded warlord named Qasim, stood bold in the open, waving his fighters forward. He wore a white shawl that glowed in thermal like a ghost. Kira's crosshairs settled on his chest. "Qasim at 12 o'clock ditch line," Ramirez whispered. "Winds gusting, hold 1/2 mil left." Kira's finger brushed the trigger. She didn't pray, she calculated. The rifle bucked. A second later, the white shawl exploded in red mist. Qasim dropped like a marionette with cut strings. The enemy froze, confused, then panicked. Shouts echoed up the valley. Kira worked the bolt, chambered another round. "Next target, machine gun nest, left ridge," Ramirez called. She shifted, found the gunner silhouetted against the sky, and squeezed. The nest went silent, but the enemy adapted fast. They realized the fire was coming from the ridge and started laying down suppressive bursts toward Widow's Perch. Rounds snapped overhead, kicking up dirt. Ramirez ducked. "They're ranging us!" Kira stayed on the scope. She couldn't see the Rangers anymore, just smoke and flashes, but she could hear their radio chatter growing desperate. "We're low on ammo. Taking casualties." Her jaw clenched. She spotted a group of 6 Taliban, sprinting across open ground toward the Ranger position, trying to envelop them. The distance was impossible. 2,300 yards now, downhill, with a quartering wind. Ramirez hesitated. "Kira, that's a prayer shot." She didn't answer. She dialed the scope, led the runner by 3 body lengths, and fired. The lead man dropped. The others scattered, but she was already tracking the next. One by one they fell, until the sprint became a crawl and then a retreat. Down in the valley, Captain Reed heard the cracks echoing like thunder and realized what was happening. "Sniper on the ridge, keep their heads down." The Rangers rallied, pouring fire into the confused enemy, but the Taliban still outnumbered them 4-1, and they had RPGs. A rocket screamed past the wall and detonated against a boulder, showering the team with shrapnel. Another Ranger went down screaming. Reed's voice cracked over the radio. "Vance, we can't hold. They're massing for a final push." Kira's spotter was bleeding now, shrapnel in his calf, but he refused to leave. "I've got eyes, Kira. Give 'em hell." She scanned the valley and saw the final play, 20 fighters forming a human wave, charging the wall under covering fire. If they reached it, hand-to-hand was inevitable. The Rangers would be slaughtered. Kira's hands were numb, her shoulder bruised from recoil, but she chambered her last 5 rounds. "Ramirez, call the wind." He gritted his teeth. 4 left, gusting 6. She adjusted, found the point man, a kid, maybe 17 ragazzo, clutching an AK. She hesitated for the first time. Then she saw the Ranger on the ground, clutching his gut, and she pulled the trigger. The kid fell. 4 rounds left. She worked methodically, dropping the front rank, then the middle, then the stragglers. The charge faltered, broke, and turned into a rout. The valley filled with the wails of the wounded and the frantic retreat of survivors. Silence finally settled, broken only by the wind. Kira lowered the rifle, her arms shaking. Ramirez keyed the mic. "Rangers, this is Widow's Perch. Valley's clear. You're safe." Reed's voice came back hoarse with disbelief. "Copy that, Widow. You just saved 12 lives." Kira didn't answer. She was staring at the body count through her scope. 23 confirmed, maybe more. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her head. "Every life you take, you carry." She felt the weight settle on her chest like a stone. The sun rose blood-red over the mountains as the Rangers limped out of the valley, carrying their dead and wounded. Kira met them at the extraction point, her face streaked with dirt and frozen tears she hadn't realized she'd shed. Captain Reed clasped her forearm. "I don't know how to thank you." She looked past him to the stretcher bearing the Ranger who'd taken shrapnel. "Just get him home," she said. The chopper lifted off, rotors thumping like a heartbeat, and Kira watched it disappear into the dawn. Back at base, the citation read like fiction. 23 enemy Kia from extreme range, 0 friendly losses after contact. The Army wanted to make her a poster child, but Kira refused the spotlight. She took her discharge papers, her rifle, and a folder of redacted after-action reports, and she went home to Wyoming. She built a small cabin on the same ridge where her grandfather had taught her to shoot, and she kept the M2010 in a glass case above the fireplace. On quiet nights, she'd sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and listen to the wind, wondering if the ghosts followed her across the ocean. Years later, a young Army recruit found her through a veterans forum. He was heading to the same valley, same mission. "Sergeant Vance," he wrote, "they still tell your story. They call that ridge Widow's Perch. Did it really happen?" Kira stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back, "It happened. But the part they don't tell is the cost. Every shot I took saved a life, but it took a piece of me. If you go out there, shoot. Straight, love your team, and come home whole. That's the only victory that matters." The recruit never wrote back. He shipped out and came home in a box. Kira read the casualty report and closed her laptop. She walked to the ridge, laid a hand on the cold glass of the rifle case, and whispered to the wind, "I'm sorry." Then she shouldered a civilian bolt action, walked into the snow, and started teaching a new generation of shooters, girls with steady hands and fierce hearts, how to protect the ones who couldn't protect themselves. That's the true cost of a legend, the shots you take, the lives you save, and the pieces of your soul you leave on a frozen ridge 2 miles from hell. Kira Vance never asked for glory. She just refused to let her brothers die alone. From which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop your state in the comments. I read every single one.